Okay, we're going to start off with our health nugget. Fortunately, I don't have a presentation. I'll be doing the health nugget. The health nugget today is going to be about dressing for health. Just like to note that I'm not prescribing what or how, because I was even thinking that even if I had to do a presentation, I would not have any pictures, so that a person thinks that I'm prescribing how you should dress. I'm speaking purely about dressing for health. We don't realize that the way we dress and how we dress and what we dress with can have an impact on our health. It's actually a very large, long topic, but I'm only going to cover two short things. It's going to be very short. First of all, in how we dress, and secondly, the type of materials that we wear. I'm going to start off with how we dress. You know, I'm not a very old person, but when I was very young, in my early 20s, at the time I was not a Christian. I don't know if anyone on the line would remember clothing called botsotso. And this was pants that were generally worn by women, which were tight. I mean, extremely tight. I'm not a very big person, so you can imagine if when I was younger, I was very thin, or rather tiny. And the pants was so tight that you'd struggle to put it on. This was a fashion. You'd struggle to put it on, and even to zip it up, you need to lie on the bed. Or you can just imagine, you need to lie on the bed, stomach in, because your stomach is more flatter when you're lying down, and then zip the pants up. And this was called in our time botsotso. It was a tight pants. And one doesn't realize the damage that one was doing to one's body. One of the things about tight clothing is that it restricts blood flow to different parts of the body. So it means that if an area or my lower part of the body wearing these very tight pants that are extremely tight, especially around the groin area and your thighs, so it means that the heart has to work so much harder because there's a restriction that is taking place. And one of the other things about tight clothing is that you can develop varicose veins, and your veins can actually swell and be painful in some instances. In some instances, you can cause numbness. And you can imagine clothing is something that we wear on the outside, but we don't realize that it has an impact even on our organs inside. How so, one may ask? It has an impact in that it constricts our organs and impairs their proper function. So digestion, for instance, would be a problem. And it can lead one to having constipation. It can lead one to having indigestion. It can lead one to even having acid reflux. Muscles are impacted because of the tight clothes. Bones are affected because your hips and pelvis area. You're walking, you won't even walk properly because you're wearing something that is extremely tight. Today, I think the tight clothing, they call them skinny jeans. And so that fashion, I would personally say, has come back. There's nothing new under the sun. And there we have this back again. But many don't realize the dangers and the impact it has upon one's health. When we wear clothing that is also tight on the upper parts of our body, it would also have an impact on restricting proper breathing. It puts pressure on our lungs, and obviously would have an impact on the respiratory system. Organs would also be impacted. Oxygen would not be flowing properly. You're breathing, you'd end up lacking energy, and your skin, because of the clothing being so tight on you, your skin would also be impacted. That is just one example of how we dress. So there we're seeing that tight clothing is not good for our health. Now I'm coming to types of material. The fashion world, it's quite amazing. The fashion world runs into billions. And obviously, it's us as women that are the big consumers of fashion, of dresses. And we wear different types of clothing. We know that men would wear, it's a pants and it's a top, and a jacket. I mean, it ends there. I'm not even talking shorts or whatever. Those are your main pieces of clothing of a material worn by a man. It's a pants and it's a top, and a jacket. But if we had to even exclude a jacket, it's a pants and a top. But with us women, the clothing range is huge. So you can then imagine the impact of the type of materials that are out there that we are not told has an impact on our skin, on our health. We have got synthetic fibers and we've got natural fibers. I'm going to start with natural fibers. Natural fibers are either animal or from vegetable plant. So, example of natural fibers that come from animal is silk, comes from the silkworm. Silk. You've got wool that comes from your sheep. You've got angora that comes from angora. It's wool that comes from your goats. You have got camel hair that also comes from your camel. Then examples of plant, it's cotton, which is a very well-known and natural fiber. You've got cotton, you've got hemp that comes from the hemp plant. You've got linen that comes from flaxseed. That is something new that I learned, and I think is so powerful. And yeah, those are just a few examples. There was one natural, which I thought was a natural fiber. They call it a semi-synthetic fiber, and that's viscose. If you look in, well, what I've noticed that they put it out there as natural. And what I discovered on different sites is that, yes, it's a natural fiber. However, coming from the wood pulp of different types of trees. So yes, they take that natural wood pulp to make it into the material. However, the process that they use to make the material, they use a lot of chemicals. So that's why they call it semi-synthetic, not entirely a natural fiber. Then your synthetic fibers, you've got polyester, the common ones, polyester, nylon, rayon, acrylic, spandex, latex. Those are just a few examples of synthetic fibers. The problem with synthetic fibers is that it's man-made, and they use chemicals, a lot of chemicals that are involved to use these to manufacture these materials. So the impact is that we don't realize, and many of us don't realize, even if it's something I'm not putting into my mouth, I'm not taking those chemicals into my body. I'm not taking that specific chemical and putting it in my body. But because it touches my skin, which is the largest organ, it goes into the skin pores and then eventually goes into the blood and then can have an impact on my health. An example is that there is a material where they would say it's wrinkle resistant. It doesn't wrinkle. That material is made with formaldehyde. And it's the impact of that is that you find that it's linked to nose and eye irritation and even allergic reactions on our skin. Take, for instance, nylon. Nylon is something the ladies know. Our stockings are nylon. The worst material that they give us, because what happens, and I mean, the ladies can testify, you start getting itchy. You'd wear it, but I mean, really, you start getting itchy, it's uncomfortable, and the rest of it. So that is a sign there's something wrong. What we have put on our skins is having an impact. We're getting an allergic reaction to the chemicals that they've put in making that nylon. So that's just an example. So what is it that we should do? Regarding to clothing that is tight, our clothing should be loose. Loose clothing. Regarding materials that are synthetic, we should try by all means to source materials that are of a natural fiber. I know that there's a lot of people saying try to go organic cotton, but yeah, I've got my own view with regards to that, but as long as it's a natural fiber, we should try to really get natural fibers, even for our skins, because that also has an impact on our skins. My health nugget ends there. I don't know if there's any questions. I've just got a verse actually that I picked up. It's amazing. The issue of the type of material is actually very powerful. And we see that with the priests that went into the sanctuary. If you look, the material was linen, and linen is made out of flaxseed. Linen is a powerful material. I'm not going to go into it, but there's powerful, even science can tell us why linen is the best material for us to wear today. I'm just going to the book of Ezekiel. The chapter is 44. And the verse is 17 and 18. This is Ezekiel. The chapter is 44 and the verse is 17 and 18. And it says here, okay, I'm going to read it from verse 16 because I just picked up something. They shall enter into my sanctuary. And here God is talking about the Levites. And they shall come near to my table to minister unto me, and they shall keep my charge. Verse 17. And it shall come to pass that when they enter in at the gates of the inner court, listen to this now. God is very specific. Says,
No one gives a
they
shit.
shall be clothed with the linen garments, and no wool shall come upon them, while they minister in the gates of the inner court and within. God doesn't leave us in the dark. Verse 18. They shall have linen bonnets upon their heads, and shall have linen breeches upon their loins. They shall not gird themselves with anything that causeth sweat. Friends, what is it that causes us to sweat? It's clothing that would be warm like wool. God, and what would happen when you start sweating? Sweat removes toxins. It helps to remove toxins. But you can imagine if you're going to minister unto the Lord and you're sweating, it can, for instance, when you've got tight clothing, you're sweating, etc. Bacteria can develop onto the skin because of that sweat. So the wisdom of God is so amazing. And here we see that God even says to the priests that wear only linen. May the Lord bless the reading of his most wonderful and precious and wise word. Amen.